coveralls. Well, I've been surface grinding on this for a while, and I still got quite a ways more to go. I'm about ready to dress the wheel. There's more art to this than there is any exacting. And you can see a pretty rough surface that I've got here. I was just knocking it down. These are hard blocks. They are actually 1, 2, 3 blocks that I cut on the saw. So I'd have nice hard ones. What they're going to be for... We've made them twice before. I know at least, maybe 3 times. I don't know. We keep losing them. It's nice to have blocks. You make them... Some of your newer mills won't do this, but your old ones, these slots are really precision. You wouldn't think they would be. But you can make a block that'll have like a 1/2 thousandths clearance and just go in there, or even 0 clearance and just tap in. And when I get down to the final part of it, I will fit them. I'll do a little grinding, come back, try them, go back and forth. It won't just be measurements. I'll get it where I like them. The other ones we made, we did them with the mill, and then we sanded them, the last part by hand, which we only made 2 and then 2 more. This time I'm making 6 of them. So we'll have plenty of them to lose. But they're really handy once you get those in there, because you just put those in, throw a piece of steel against it, and you're square. So, and these being hard will be a little bit better than the other ones we made, which were, the other ones were Rockwell 35 probably. These are 60 on one side, and they didn't quite get them through hardened, so they're only 50 in the middle of the other side, but where I sawed them off, but it's okay. It's okay. These blocks we're going to use for making a fixture for drilling and then reaming some holes. I cut these on the saw the other day, and that's where I'm working on. I could do it without the blocks. It's just like it makes it so much better, though. I've got quite a bit of long, flip them over, mill it, keep doing it. This is time to do it. And it's a bid job, so this is just my own time to make more tools for us. Now, one of the things with the surface grinder, it's really nice to have coolant on them. If you do have coolant on it, you want your wheel wet when you dress it, because that will throw everything off. This wheel is wet, and I can dress it without the water splashing around in my way, but you don't want the wheel dry like it's been sitting here. It hadn't been any water on it. And I got the diamond over here. If you come across really slow, it can make a better surface finish, but if you come across fast, the wheel will grind better. It's more open. You don't have as many grains across the surface, but you've got more space in between them for the cuts and stuff to fall out. And so I kind of tried a medium dressing there. I had, which I should have kept. Now I've got that where I can't go quite as far as I, which is good, because I don't want to hit my diamond. Get back here onto my part. This poor surface grinder sat here unused after I bought it new. It sat here for over 20 years. That still didn't work. Okay, don't get to do that. I was hoping I could get to leave that on, but I won't. I don't want to demagnetize it, because that will encourage chips and crud to get underneath those. Now I'm going to turn coolant on. And as I come up, you want to just, when you're doing finish, you want to just barely come up to where it sparks a little bit. Now you could also make it easier on yourself by, we don't do a whole lot with this. It's a handy tool to have, but there's a little spark right there. Just absolutely nothing. And then we'll go across with that very little sparking, so we know that we've got everything at that same level. And when we're done, we go back the other way, and as far as very little sparking at the end. And I'm going to come up 1/1000th, roughly. I was coming up 5/1000ths on each cut a little bit ago, but 5/1000ths on each cut was making a lot of breakdown of the wheel. I know it wasn't straight, it wasn't making a really good surface. What it was doing was removing metal quickly, because I had a long ways to go. Now I'm getting close into having this side ground. And the other side of this, since these were 1, 2, 3 blocks, was already ground. So but I don't want to trust that as being as nice of a surface as it could be. So I'm going to regrind these to a finished surface, then come back and work on the other side again after I deburrow. And there's machines that are all power and automatic, and I looked at the idea of having a power automatic fancy machine. I've had some before that were used power ones. Now you see how it ground a lot more that time. That's because we're hitting more of the surface. First we were skipping a lot because of having a very rough surface previous to this. A lot of art to it. Also the coolant, without the coolant, besides being very dusty, the coolant's cheap to add on. Even if you buy one without coolant, get some splash pans and add coolant to it. This one had the drain system for the coolant, but it didn't have coolant on it when I bought it new. And I just figured that that was the way to go. I'm going to just come up 1/2,000 now. Or actually, since this is a metric screw, I'm actually coming up 4 10,000ths. In reality, it's metric. Now I'm going to also go back, go to quarter turns going across for each time I make a movement, instead of what I was doing there was half turns. But this machine was $2,000 cheaper to get it without the coolant mounted, and the exact same coolant system was available for $200. So I just thought that was the better way to do it, even though we had to run our own hoses and wire. It is nice to have power on them. I actually have a really nice bigger one than this. 2 years ago, I think I had it, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to take the space in the shop with it or not. And so, and another friend of mine, he kind of wanted it. We both looked at it at the auction together. And then what made the deciding factor was I looked at it closer, and it turned out that it was 480 volt. I mean 240, excuse me, 240 volt. And I have 480 here. I also have 400 volt. But I don't actually have a lot of 243 phase. I've got transformers. We could do it, but now we get a pretty decent surface. And I'm gonna sneak it just a little bit. We'll go back and forth a bunch of times until we don't get sparks. Now, on some grinding, they don't do spark out. It depends on how nice of a finish you want and how accurate you want it. But for precision grinding, you're supposed to go back and forth till it's pretty much no sparks. For production grinding, you usually just go ahead, have enough of a wheel so that it'll cover a lot of your sins and grind even though it's still sparking and trying to grind some more. The first time I was around any grinding of any kind of precision where people were not doing a spark out, it really set me off on my attitudes and thoughts, but you know what, the part came out accurate enough when we were done, and it saved a few $1,000s by versus trying to go that extra time to get all the sparks to quit going, so it didn't really matter. When you use one that doesn't have coolant on it, besides the fact, the bigger thing than dusty, nasty, the coolant's got a little overspray and smell, and it's not terrible, but it's not without its negative sides. Everything does a little bit. But the biggest thing is your part. Your parts will get hot. Your part will get hot, and it'll have discoloration, warpage. It just won't be as good a part when you don't have the coolant. You can see there's still a few little sparks, but way less than there was. So this would be pretty close to considered a spark out where we're at now. A few little sparks, but not much. I think I'll still go back across it again. Just as it makes it prettier, better. Keep wanting to try and take another cut. I don't know why. It's easier to get in the zone and just do this sort of stuff artistically without trying to explain it. And I almost didn't get our cameraman for this because I was like, yeah, I don't, this is... But it's part of what people like to see. And I don't know how much of this kind of running, I haven't really looked for it, but running manual surface grinders. I don't know how much is out there. Might be lots of it, might not be much. Now there's little bumper stops on here to keep you from going too far, and you can adjust those, but it's really better to just not hit them. Just because they're there doesn't mean you want to use them. You want to have them adjusted so you can't way overrun. And an interesting thing to note with these surface grinders too is the tables float. This one is ball rollers. Some of them are just oiled ways. That's pretty well sparked out. But there's no there's nothing that holds the table. I can actually pick this table up. Not that I want to right now, but I can actually just pick it up. And there. But anyway, so that is our pieces that we ground, and you can see they're not perfect, but they're pretty good. They're plenty good for what we're doing. And when this is an electromagnet, and I bought another grinder, which I bought it mostly for the electromagnet, and then I sold it, and I didn't really think enough when I let my friend look at it that bought the grinder from me. It had an overhead dresser on it, which is really nice. Now, dressing with a diamond on your table, same as what you're grinding, is generally, it's guaranteed to be accurate as far as square. And square is the most important part. Your overhead dresser, you can have it cocked or have a little, it may not dress quite as perfectly, but darn, they're quick. And it really makes it nice too. You take 5/1000ths on it, you know that you're just another 5/1000ths up here from where you were the last time that it was dressed. So, and it was a pretty nice one actually. I didn't need the surface grinder. And it was actually, the thing about it, it was a power one too. It was a combination power and manual, but the power electronics were just, they were goofy. You know, 1970 top of the line with 1 or 2 transistors missing. So, you know, like I said, I bought it for the magnet, and but I should have kept that overhead dresser off of it. I forget what brand it was. It was actually a pretty decent surface grinder. I think I sold it to him for under $500, but I'm not sure. I think I gave him a pretty decent deal. But the magnet would cost you $1,500, $2,500 to go buy a magnet, so I was ahead anyway. I paid less than $5. We all made out. It was good. It was good. Now, I also have somewhere here, because when I first bought this, I had a permanent magnet for it. But the electromagnets will generally, and I'm going to say generally, let you hold tighter, but some of the new neodymium magnets probably hold as good as these ones. The older ones were not neodymium. And that's the one I bought when I bought new with this, 30 years ago now. It was not a heavy neodymium magnet version, so it wouldn't have as much magnetism. But you don't need the electric. What's nice on these, both the fact that you can grab more as far as the strength of holding, also you can grab lighter. If you've got something on here that wants to bend, a real flexible little piece, and while you can shim it up and do different things, but it's also to be able to dial that down and just barely touch it, without it sucking down. Now, if you grind very much, then that's going to just fall out. You have a trade-off there. But being able to grind that first little part of something, now we have a flat spot. Now we can turn it over and we can grind the other side. Say it's curved up a little. We can hit the other 2 sides a little bit and gradually get it back in one way or the other until you've got it flat without sucking it way down. You also can take and put something underneath it so that as you suck it down, it's somewhat controlled. Again, the art in that. So you've got a little bit more hold, but you've got something underneath it holding it up in the middle. And that won't make it perfectly flat, but it will get you better to, again, get your start. It's a repetition back and forth. When you're taking pieces off of this, there's a demagnetizing cycle. And so that's turning it off, but I hit the other way just real quick and they release a lot better. So I didn't think to have a rag out here. But anyway, yeah, that's our surface that we just ground. This is the original 1, 2, 3 block surface, which isn't quite as smooth. I will hit this with a stone and deburr it and put them back on. I'll also do some accurate miking of them and see where I'm at now. When I first put this on here, and you do that, you grind the table to start with. That's your first grinding project when you set one up. You don't just throw a magnet on here and say it's good. You grind the magnet to match the machine. And that's part of what makes them really good. Handy machines for just little things now and then. Probably a lot of other things to say, but not right at the moment. Yeah, it's well. After we get it, let's do because we did the finishing, and we saw how it was rough right at first. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send Bert away, and then I'm going to call him back in here after I've deburred these and cleaned this off, and we'll take some roughing cuts on the other side. So I put little chamfers on here actually just with the sander. I was saying I was going to stone them, but sander's easier, and I want little chamfers on them anyway. When you're putting stuff on like this, you want to make sure there's no little pieces of grit left, and you can feel them with your hand. You'll feel a piece that's 1/10,000th of an inch, but you won't see it, you won't blow it off, you won't know it with a rag. And when you feel that there's nothing there, then you want to feel your part that you're putting down. And you want to do that with every one. And if you feel anything on the edges, like where I did sand them, if you feel that up at all, then you're going to want to take that area and you're going to want to dress it with a stone. A little Didn't feel quite right when I was sliding it there. When that was first presented to me, as far as, well, they told us, not first presented to me, but they told us that in school years ago that you were supposed to do this on surface grinder. And then we had a test on machine shop safety. And they pulled that as one of the questions for safety. They said for safety, when you're running, they asked us a couple about radial drill presses, and then they came to surface grinder. They said on a surface grinder for safety, you should A, blow off the dust, B, always use a rag, you know, C, wipe it with your hand, D, never touch it because you might get cut. And anyway, wiping it with your hand was the correct answer, even though it was a safety test. They kind of threw in a regular question in the test. So, and I have measured this. I've got about 20 thousandths more to go. So, so yeah, I can still take a fair amount off. That is one thing, is the coolant. Since we didn't wire a whole different panel or anything, it's on a switch on the coolant pump over there instead of up on the panel. We do actually, they wired one on the panel right from the start, this one for the coolant, but the add-on kit is a 110 volt single phase, and the one meant for it originally would be ran by the same three-phase, which was actually wired for 240, and I had to rewire that too anyway. So, start with, just for good practice, we'll go across here without taking any cut. And we'll see that we are picking up a little bit. Whoa, that one moved. Of course it moved. Yes, of course it moved. John Boo Boo. Again, speaking. John forgot to turn the magnet on. It's in the middle position. Yep. So, John gets to take those off and put them back on again, because there'll be enough grit. Little rubber squeegees are nice to have around these surface grinders too. Okay. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I did. Normally I check that a bunch of times. Oh well. It's okay. We didn't have a real problem from it. Our part didn't go running off. Okay, turn on the magnet, the actual holding position. That's the one you want. Okay, so I'm going to take a full 1,000th. I don't want to totally mess up my wheel, so I'm not gonna do roughing. I hit the bump stop there. Have a little more distance. I guess yeah, I'll just redress the wheel a little bit. We'll go ahead and we'll do some roughing. Yes, I do got quite a bit that I want to take down. So right there I'm taking 5/1000, which is going to break the wheel down a lot. And I will know, and you'll be able to see too, when we get to the end of this, when we go to reverse, it won't spark out evenly all the way across. It won't spark even when I come back the other way because the wheel will have broken down some. In fact, you can already see it. I'm at the end there, and it's not doing what it was doing. But by doing it more aggressively that way, you keep the wheel grinding. It keeps it sharp because it breaks down. Doesn't let it be. It's not flat. You don't get a real accurate surface, but you take material off and you keep the wheel grinding. If you travel too slow or don't push it enough, it won't break the wheel down. You can do that too, trying to grind too much or grind too long without redressing the wheel. But that's hard again. Something you will see that means that you definitely are not doing correct by your wheel and the steel and everything is if you're running coolant, especially it's harder if you're dry, you do it all the time. It's just a problem. But when your part starts turning blue where you're grinding it, that's a big no-no. That's not right. That's burning. And we're not doing any of that here, but if you do, then that's something you don't want to be doing. Okay, I'm going to take one more big cut, and then even though I know the wheel's not straight, I'm just going to let it somewhat spark out at a lesser amount so I can pull it off of there and get a good measurement for where I'm at. You can also use the depth mic, measure off of your part to the magnet, but it doesn't really give you the real measurement of where you're at. There's some sparking all the way across, so we're not terrible as far as where we're going to be really crooked, but we'll be a little crooked. And yeah, this machine should have a digital, the same as all of them anymore. But that was not my initial. Okay, so we ended up taking off a little over 8 thousandths because we were at 710. So I'm just going to clean these two and go back with them and keep on roughing in this spot right here. Pull things on and off of your magnetic chuck. And even though it is, think of a chuck as rotating, they still call them a magnetic chuck, even though it's square. You can see how the wheel is catching up a lot, that if it was straight, it would have, when you were over the surface, it would have already grounded, as opposed to, as I'm coming off the side, still grinding more. That's showing me that the wheel is not straight. feel like I'm being watched. Okay, and it's 697. We're shooting for 690 is where I want to start at for looking at feel. Give me somewhere around 690 to 689 is going to be what I want for my finish. And another 697. Okay. When we get down closer, I will pull all of these off to be sure I haven't gotten grit underneath them or something happening there too. Because while it should stay outside of it, when the magnet's coming on and off, it's just better for the final, making sure they're all the same, all down flat. So, okay, turn the magnet on. Magnet on. Now you can see that we're regrinding a little bit more on those first two that I pulled up. That's showing me somehow I missed something, didn't get them down quite all the way. So I will take a pretty good cut. It moved a little. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead pretty quick here and I will pull them all up, make sure everything's right, redress the wheel, come back in, touch off, go for more petiteness. Well, actually, since we know we want to dress it, I just as well do that first off here. See how much of a nuisance this is? Have to go way up. If I had the overhead dresser, I'd just go zip, zip. You really need to get one. Of course, on the other hand, we don't use this that much. Okay, 695. Let me get out from underneath that grinding wheel so stuff isn't dripping on here after I wipe this off. I think my coveralls are getting gritty. I should probably have a clean rag for doing it rather than my coveralls. Usually I use coveralls. May not be correct, but it is something I've gotten used to doing. I've also gotten used to having clean pairs of coveralls several times through the day. I used to use I'd use the same coveralls all week years ago. And then when I got to working at Red Dog Mine, since it was a lead zinc mine, the lead toxicity, they wanted us to minimize rewearing your coveralls. So you were paid to take your coveralls off, and we got four times a day, we had clean coveralls. And even though I got to wash them here, I got to where I kind of like that. Same 695. I got to where I really liked that, so that's what I try and do now. It just feels good to have a nice, clean new pair. Now these were the two that we had pulled off twice. It's down about a half a thousandth, not quite a half. But it is a little under the 95. And we could get around and look at our vernier, but it really doesn't matter at this point. And this one's right at 95 again. Okay. I'm not trying to rough it quite so much now. I just took 1/1000 cut roughly. Actually, the first one of these I ever ran was powered one. I used it for surfacing the ends of my adapter for Willie's transfer case to fit on a Dodge 420 transmission. Okay. Still should have a little bit left to go. Yeah, that's what I was figuring was 91. But I want to make sure that I get them all seated back in here properly too. I might be a little lazy and not measure them all, but I'm going to measure one in a different location. Yep, 91. Okay. I don't have to get them back in the same place. If I did need to get them back in the same place, something would be wrong with this procedure. Turn the magnet on. Okay. So now, you know where we're at there. Now what we want to take off is to be pretty consistent. So that would be a good starter. Pretty close. Yep. Yep, I thought that was a little tighter than I wanted. Okay. But I got to pull them all off, put them all back on again, because we're down where we want to be very careful with what we're doing. Definitely mass production ways of doing this stuff. Big grinders, big Blanchard grinder. I came close to buying a fair-sized Blanchard grinder. I mean, it was huge as far as for doing this stuff, but not big by Blanchard grinder standards, though. I think it had a 24-inch wheel and about a 6-foot table, something like that. But where are you going to put it? Too many toys already. And if I really needed it, I could probably talk it away from the guy that's got it at this time for some money. At a later time, I might not be able to. Depends on, if he gets into where he's really using it, then it's not as available. And he's probably watching this too. You don't know who he is, but he knows who he is. I actually had bid on the machine at an auction many years earlier, and then it ended up just at a regular sale later on. It needs bearings too. So that's part of why it's not as attractive as one that didn't need bearings, needs spindle bearings. Or it needs the spindle bearings tightened. It's possible that the bearings are okay and they just backed off for some reason too. I don't know. But it got some rattle. You don't even have to put power to it to see it's got some rattle when you go turn it. It's nice to have them where they tap in, but you don't want to have to tear them up putting them in. We're close. I kind of think I've got to do this twice yet, but we're going to take it easy and do it one at a time, get them where we like them. Yeah, as for kicks, I'll try another one over there. I don't think it's going to be any different. It really is amazing with these how accurate these slots are going down the machines. These old, so like right there, it's got a little wear. Right there, it's fitting. But I want it to go in more than a worn spot. And they still work even if they're loose. It's just nicer if they just snug slide. If everything's ideal, you can tap them, they'll stay there, they don't move. I don't know that we'll have that all the way down the ways, but we should come up with something that's decent. Look at that. And it turned over enough times I was about to put it the wrong side up. But I knew which was the right side because we've only got the bevels on the corners on the one side. I think that's what I actually want. Is that, well, here's my soft hammer. Just go in. Just a little on the snug side. I don't know. I take a heel bar and pull that out. I'm going to just see a little more around here what I think. That might be slightly tighter than I want. Seemed good at first, but a little tighter there. Yeah, I'm going to pull that one out. We'll give them one more go. Didn't scar it up a whole lot. It's just was okay for that spot, but the rest of it's a little tighter. Not quite what I want yet. Close. And I did not hot saw these. A lot of people would say if you're cutting hard material, they think you're going to use a chop saw, abrasive, and that is a way to do it. But we have carbide blades for our bandsaw. Those do a nice job of cold cutting the hard material. They don't work on chrome though. Chrome plating is a little bit too hard. You can induction hardened material, pretty much any of it. They're good blades. They will cut it. But chrome, no, it will ruin the blade. And it don't have to be thick chrome either. after I got through bragging about how accurate these old machines were. I'm sure this was when it was new. I am going to go grab a dressing stick. This down here is where she seemed to be tighter, which of course is part of the table you don't use as much either. But just see that I'm not catching burrs. Not going to be able to sand it down with this. Just going to take off little high spots we might miss otherwise. Which, not being able to sand it down is exactly what I want. I don't want to sand it down. I just want to dress over defects if there are. I would say probably just got a little wear in the middle of the table. I think we want to go a little more. They're just a little snug on the ends here, but not bad. They're at the tighter end of what I'd like. This is just about perfect, but the slots do vary a little bit. They've got some wear. It's not a new machine anymore.